March 3, 1959. 217 Lenox Avenue, Harlem. 11:37 p.m. The back room of Bumpy Johnson's headquarters smelled of cigar smoke and old wood. Big Marcus Williams sat in a wooden chair, hands tied behind his back. Sweat poured down his face, dripped onto his collar, stained the fabric dark. Bumpy Johnson stood behind him. Silent. Circling. Slow. In his right hand, a straight razor. Silver. German steel. A Solingen blade that had ended 3 men before Marcus ever sat in that chair. 6 witnesses lined the walls. Ishon, Junie Bird, Nat Pettigrew. 4 trusted soldiers. Arms crossed. Eyes cold. Nobody spoke. The room held its breath. Bumpy stopped circling. Leaned close to Marcus's ear. His voice came out calm. Too calm. I know what you took. I know who gave it to you. I want to hear you say it. Marcus's pulse hammered in his neck, visible. Rapid. His mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. The razor glinted under the single hanging bulb. $50,000. That's what they'd paid Marcus. More money than he'd see in 10 lifetimes. More money than any man in that room had ever touched. And Marcus had taken it. Every dollar. To kill the man standing behind him. The man who'd trusted him for 8 years. The man whose life Marcus had saved. Twice. Who paid you, Marcus? What Marcus confessed in the next 12 minutes would expose the biggest assassination plot in Harlem history. A conspiracy that reached from these back streets to the Italian mafia's highest levels. But how Bumpy knew about it. How he'd prepared. How he'd already won before Marcus even walked into that room. That's the real legend. But this interrogation didn't start in that back room. It started 11 days earlier when Bumpy noticed something nobody else saw. A single mistake that unraveled everything. To understand how the most trusted man in Bumpy's circle became his greatest threat, you need to know what happened when the offer was made. February 1959. Harlem was at peace. On the surface. Bumpy Johnson controlled $3 million annually through Harlem's numbers racket. The policy banks. The street corners. The loyalty of 10,000 people who'd choose him over any outsider. Money the Italian 5 families once considered theirs. Money they'd never touch again. Vincent. The Chin Gigante sat in his social club in Little Italy, bleeding cash. 3 assassination attempts on Bumpy Johnson. 3 failures. The Godfather of Harlem always knew they were coming. Always stayed 3 moves ahead. So Gigante changed tactics. You can't kill a man who sees every attack coming, but you can buy the man standing closest to him. Marcus Williams. Born in South Carolina, 1923. Came to Harlem in 1951 with nothing but a strong back and loyal heart. Started as muscle for Bumpy's operations. Just another enforcer. Until 1954. That's when Dutch Schultz's last loyalists tried to settle old scores. 3 men cornered Bumpy outside the Red Rooster. Guns drawn. Marcus took 2 bullets protecting him. 1 in the shoulder. 1 in the leg. Still managed to drop all 3 attackers. Bumpy never forgot that. Marcus became more than hired help. He became family. Ate at Bumpy's table. Knew every routine. Every safe house, every blind spot in Bumpy's armor. That's what made him the perfect weapon. February 20th, 1959. Genovese Social Club, Mulberry Street, Little Italy. They didn't threaten Marcus. They seduced him. The meeting room was small. Dark wood panels, smell of expensive cigars. 2 Genovese lieutenants sat across from Marcus at a table. Between them, a briefcase. They opened it. Cash, stacked bills. More money than Marcus had ever seen in one place. $50,000, the lieutenant said. More than you earned in 10 years working for Bumpy. Marcus stared at the money. His mouth went dry. The deal is simple. March 5th, midnight. Leave the back entrance to Bumpy's club unlocked. Walk away. We send 4 men. Bumpy's dead in 90 seconds. You're on a train to Chicago by sunrise. New name, new life. 50,000 reasons to start over. Marcus's mind raced. Loyalty versus survival. Family versus fortune. 8 years of trust versus 1 moment of opportunity. The lieutenant leaned forward. If you say yes, you're rich and free. If you say no, we know you were approached. Bumpy finds out you were targeted. Either way, you become a liability. Choose. If Marcus said yes, Bumpy Johnson would be dead within 72 hours. If Marcus said no, he'd be marked by both sides. February 22nd, 1959. Marcus took the money. The deal was made. But what Vincent Gigante didn't know, Bumpy Johnson had eyes in places the mafia thought were invisible, informants inside families that believed themselves untouchable. What Marcus didn't know, Bumpy had been watching him for 11 days. Because on February 21st, 1 day before Marcus took that money, Bumpy noticed something. One tiny detail. One mistake Marcus made that would cost him everything. Marcus bought a new suit. Paid cash. $300. Marcus never spent like that. In 8 years, Bumpy had never seen Marcus buy anything he didn't need. The man wore the same 3 shirts, rotated them weekly, sent money home to his sister in South Carolina. But suddenly, a $300 suit. Cash. That's when Bumpy knew. The mafia bought loyalty with money. Bumpy earned loyalty through respect. But money? Money talks loud to a man with nothing. And that was Marcus's fatal flaw. For 11 days, Bumpy watched. He didn't confront Marcus. He didn't change his routine. He played the part of the man who suspected nothing. And on March 3rd, when Marcus thought he was 48 hours from freedom, Bumpy made his move. What happened next was surgical. Cold. Legendary. March 3rd, 11:15 p.m. Bumpy called Marcus into the back room, said they needed to discuss security for an upcoming meeting. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. Marcus walked through the door. The click of the deadbolt behind him. That's when Marcus knew. 6 men stepped out from the shadows. Junie Bird and Nat Pettigrew, Bumpy's enforcers. 4 soldiers Marcus had worked beside for years. They moved forward, surrounded him. Marcus's hand twitched toward his waistband. His gun was gone. Someone had already taken it. Bumpy stood at the table, calm. No rage in his eyes, no shouting, just cold calculation. He picked up the straight razor from the table. German steel, sharp enough to split a hair lengthwise, placed it down with a soft click. Sit down, Marcus. Marcus's legs felt weak. He sat. Junie Bird and another soldier tied his hands behind the chair. Tight. Professional. Marcus's pulse hammered in his neck. Sweat beaded on his temple, rolled down his face. Everyone in that room had seen Bumpy interrogate men before. Drug dealers who stole. Informants who talked. Men who crossed lines they shouldn't have crossed. But the way Bumpy looked at Marcus, that was different. That was betrayal. Junie Bird later told the story in Harlem bars for years. Bumpy didn't look angry. He looked disappointed, and that was so much worse. Bumpy picked up the razor, walked behind Marcus. Slow. Deliberate. Marcus, you saved my life twice. That's the only reason you're still breathing. The blade touched Marcus's throat. Not cutting, just resting. Cold steel against warm skin. But if you lie to me one more time, Junie will be mopping your blood off this floor before midnight. Marcus's voice cracked. Bumpy. How much did they pay you? Silence. Marcus tried to speak. His mouth opened. Closed. Bumpy. I don't know what you're talking about. What happened next? Marcus tried to lie. Big mistake. Bumpy reached into his jacket, pulled out a photograph, placed it in front of Marcus's face. This is you. February 20th. Mulberry Street. Genevieve's Social Club. The photo was clear. Marcus walking into the club. Timestamp. 8:47 p.m. Marcus's face went pale. Bumpy had known for 11 days. He had photos. He had witnesses. He had everything. You think Vincent Gigante's walls don't have ears? You think I don't have men inside every family in New York? The moment Marcus realized he'd been outplayed from the beginning, his shoulders sagged. His breathing quickened. The razor stayed at his throat. Bumpy leaned close, whispered, "Tell me about the money." The razor stayed at Marcus's throat. Bumpy didn't move it. He didn't have to, because what Marcus said next, what he confessed in the next 8 minutes, would expose not just one betrayal, but an entire network. And the way Bumpy had prepared for this? It proved why crossing him was the last mistake anyone ever made. Marcus broke. Oh, his voice came out shaking. Broken. They came to me. February 20th, the full story poured out. The meeting in Little Italy. Vincent Gigante's offer. The briefcase filled with cash. The promise of Chicago. A new life far from Harlem's streets. $50,000, Marcus said. Half up front, half when you were dead. The words hung in the air like gunpowder smoke. The plan was March 5th. Midnight. I leave the back door unlocked. They send 4 men. You'd be dead in 90 seconds. I'd be on a train west by sunrise. Marcus's voice cracked. Desperation leaked through. Bumpy, I got a sister in South Carolina. I got debts, medical bills. I thought. The razor pressed slightly. Not cutting. Warning. You thought wrong. Marcus swallowed hard. Kept talking. Gave names. Locations. Every detail of the conspiracy. The 4 hitmen assigned to the job. The safe house on 145th Street where they were waiting. The escape route planned. The new identity prepared. Everything. But here's what Marcus didn't know. What nobody knew until that moment. Bumpy stepped back. Looked at Junie Bird. The 4 hitmen. 145th Street safe house. What were their names? Marcus? Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Sal Testa. Bobby Mancini. Frank the Hammer Gallo. Tommy Rossini. Bumpy nodded to Junie Bird. Bring them in. The door opened. 4 men stumbled into the room. Beaten, bloodied, hands bound behind their backs, faces swollen from interrogation. They could barely stand. Marcus's eyes went wide. His jaw dropped. They were already caught. I picked them up Tuesday, Bumpy said. Calm, matter of fact. 2 days ago. They've been my guests. Marcus stared at the 4 hitmen. His mind couldn't process it. And that $50,000? I seized it Wednesday morning. Vincent's courier never made it back to Little Italy. The pieces fell together in Marcus's mind. The horror of realization. February 21st. Marcus bought that new suit. Cash. $300. Marcus never spent like that. In 8 years, Bumpy had never seen Marcus buy anything he didn't need. That one purchase, that one moment of celebrating early, tipped Bumpy off. Bumpy had Marcus followed. By February 23rd, he knew everything. The meeting, the money, the plan, the hitmen, the safe house location, the photos, the surveillance. I let you think you were free because I wanted to see how deep it went. I wanted every name, every location, every conspirator. Bumpy removed the razor from Marcus's throat, wiped the blade clean with a white handkerchief. Slow, methodical. And Marcus, you gave them all to me. You knew the whole time? I knew before you walked into Gigante's club. My man was in that room when they made the offer. The crushing truth settled over Marcus like a burial shroud. You were never in control, Marcus. You were never going to Chicago. You were always coming here. Marcus thought he was playing Bumpy. The Genovese family thought they were playing Bumpy. But the truth? Bumpy had been playing them all. 3 moves ahead. Always 3 moves ahead. The confession was complete. The conspiracy exposed. 4 mafia hitmen in custody. $50,000 seized. But one question remained. What would Bumpy do with Marcus? Because what happened next became one of the most talked about moments in Harlem history. Not for its brutality, but for its mercy. Bumpy Johnson stood before Marcus Williams. The room waited. Silent. Tense. Everyone expected a bullet. Marcus expected a bullet. Even Junie Bird had his hand resting on his gun, ready to do what needed doing. Bumpy looked at Marcus for a long moment, studying the man who'd saved his life twice. The man who'd just tried to sell it for $50,000. You saved my life twice, Marcus. I don't forget that. Marcus looked up. Hope flickered in his eyes. But you also sold me for $50,000. I don't forget that either. The hope died. Bumpy picked up the razor again, walked behind Marcus. The room held its breath. I'm going to let you live, but you'll carry a reminder. What happened next took 2 minutes. 2 minutes that scarred Marcus Williams for the remaining 30 years of his life. Bumpy carved 3 letters into Marcus's chest with that silver Solingen blade. Precise, deliberate, 1 inch tall each. B. J. T. Bumpy Johnson's traitor. Marcus screamed. But he didn't fight back. Couldn't fight back. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was mercy. Because Bumpy could have done so much worse. The razor-carved skin, B, drew blood, left permanent marks that would never fade. You have 12 hours to leave New York, Bumpy said. Calm, final. If I ever see you again, those 2 bullets you took for me, they'll look like kindness compared to what comes next. Marcus was on a Greyhound bus to Detroit by sunrise. Word spread through Harlem within 24 hours. By the weekend, every borough knew. The story traveled like wildfire. Bumpy Johnson's bodyguard had betrayed him, took mafia money, got caught, got marked, got exiled. The message to the 5 families was clear. Bumpy had their hitmen, he had their money, and he'd turned their inside man into a walking billboard. Vincent the Chin Gigante never tried again. The Genovese family's Harlem ambitions died in that back room on Lenox Avenue. Marcus Williams was spotted in Detroit in 1961, working as a dishwasher at a diner on Woodward Avenue. The scars visible whenever he lifted heavy boxes, whenever his shirt rode up. Nobody would hire him for security work again. Nobody wanted Bumpy Johnson's marked man on their payroll. Bumpy understood what most men never learn. Revenge doesn't require death. Sometimes the strongest message is letting your enemy live, but making sure they never forget what they lost. Marcus lived 30 more years carrying those letters. Every day he looked in the mirror and saw his betrayal staring back. Every shower, every shirt change, every moment alone with his thoughts. That's power. That's control. That's legend. FBI surveillance reports from March 1959 documented a marked individual leaving Johnson's establishment at approximately 6:47 a.m. NYPD detectives later confirmed Marcus Williams was questioned in Detroit in 1961 about the scars. He refused to explain them. But this wasn't just about one traitor. This was about sending a message that echoed through every criminal organization in America. This is why Bumpy Johnson ruled Harlem for 30 years. He didn't rule through fear alone. He ruled through calculated mercy, through strategic forgiveness that cut deeper than any bullet. Marcus lived, but he lived as a ghost, a warning to anyone who thought about crossing the line. But this interrogation didn't start in that back room. It started 11 days earlier when Bumpy noticed something nobody else saw, a single mistake that unraveled everything. To understand how the most trusted man in Bumpy's circle became his greatest threat, you need to know what happened when the offer was made. February 1959. Harlem was at peace. On the surface, Bumpy Johnson controlled $3 million annually through Harlem's numbers racket. The policy banks, the street corners, the loyalty of 10,000 people who'd choose him over any outsider. Money the Italian five families once considered theirs. Money they'd never touch again. Vincent. The Chin Gigante sat in his social club in Little Italy, bleeding cash. 3 assassination attempts on Bumpy Johnson. 3 failures. The Godfather of Harlem always knew they were coming. Always stayed 3 moves ahead. So Gigante changed tactics. You can't kill a man who sees every attack coming, but you can buy the man standing closest to him. Big Marcus Williams. Born in South Carolina, 1923. Came to Harlem in 1951 with nothing but a strong back and loyal heart. Started as muscle for Bumpy's operations, just another enforcer. Until 1954. That's when Dutch Schultz's last loyalists tried to settle old scores. 3 men cornered Bumpy outside the Red Rooster. Guns drawn. Marcus took 2 bullets protecting him. 1 in the shoulder, 1 in the leg. Still managed to drop all 3 attackers. Bumpy never forgot that. Marcus became more than hired help. He became family. Ate at Bumpy's table. Knew every routine. Every safe house. Every blind spot in Bumpy's armor. That's what made him the perfect weapon. February 20th, 1959. Genovese Social Club, Mulberry Street, Little Italy. They didn't threaten Marcus. They seduced him. The meeting room was small. Dark wood panels. Smell of expensive cigars. 2 Genovese lieutenants sat across from Marcus at a table. Between them, a briefcase. They opened it. Cash. Stacked bills. More money than Marcus had ever seen in one place. $50,000, the lieutenant said. More than you earned in 10 years working for Bumpy. Marcus stared at the money. His mouth went dry. If you haven't subscribed yet, you might never see this channel again. So make sure you're subscribed and get more videos like this.